Hi, welcome back to Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. This is Shelly.
I'm Jason. Guys, it's good to have y'all back. We're back with another episode. Before we get into too much, Shelly, I want to throw out one of our sponsors is VacMaster. Use the code Homestead to get 15% off your order. The website is vacmasterfresh.com. Of course, there'll be a link in the description. But Shelly, what let's do some homestead happenings. What have you been doing on your homestead here in the last little bit? Is
um,
the fence done yet?
no. Is your greenhouse done yet?
No.
um, it's just been day to day. We haven't started any new projects because we have gotten almost all of the fence posts pulled. I think there might be about a dozen left back behind Louisa's place next door to us that those need to be pulled. So the next step is to get our guy to come and bush hog that so we can kind of extend how much pasture we have, that footage of pasture. And then the guy will come and hopefully put the fence up. We may be looking at Christmas now, dude. I don't know.
It just, I mean, it just takes time. All this stuff takes a lot of time and stuff to do, especially like one of our last episodes on how to balance everything from 9 to 5. If you didn't have,
Right.
just think if you could spend those 8 to 9 hours on your homestead as opposed to being at your full time job, think of all the stuff you could get done. But the bad thing is I procrastinate sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that here in just a little while. And 3 hours later, I'm like, I didn't do that yet. I was like, this is stupid. I should have done it. So
Well, and if I have a day at work that like if sometimes some days I just have to train all day. I have to do classes all day. And when that happens, it's so mentally exhausting. When I come home, I don't feel like doing it. I mean, I'm just exhausted. So I just want to, like veg out and read a book or something. I don't want to be outside, but that doesn't happen too often. But sometimes it's exhausting when you got to work a full time job and come home and take care of all your stuff.
oh yeah, well, we've got baseball season starting up again.
Yeah.
That's going to take, and now starting kid pitch, instead of an hour practice, we've got 2 to 2.5 hour practices. And I'm just like, holy crap, this is going to be a lot. But well, as you asked me before, the greenhouse is still not done. I've not done anything on it just because I've been so busy with everything else. I did start working on. I badly neglected my food forest. There are weeds growing up at the edges of it, all around, up around the driveway. So I started the other day clearing that stuff up, and it's going to be. Yeah, I could probably go down there and kill myself and get it all done in one day, but I've dedicated. It's like, hey, I'm going to spend 30 minutes today cutting some weeds out and stuff like that. And then the only bad thing in the back of my head, I'm like, ooh, Leslie showed me all these cool herbs. And I was like, am I killing some of this stuff that I don't need to kill? But like there's
That's me. Every time I want to go pull weeds or whatever, I'm like, but I could make a tincture out of this.
yeah. Oh yeah, and I told well, we were running somewhere this morning. My wife said something. She's like, I saw something about somebody was making some mullein tincture, and she was like, that's what we got growing right there, isn't it? And I said, yeah. And I was like, we need to make some tinctures out of that. And she's like, well, grab some leaves off of it this afternoon. So I'll probably go down there after the podcast and grab some leaves and start drying those out and doing a tincture. But so I
You
started.
don't have to dry them out for a tincture.
Do you not have to?
Mm-mm. You can chop them up and leave them, fresh plant matter and fill up or put about 2/3 of the jar and then fill it all the way to the rim with vodka, 100 proof vodka,
Well,
and make your tincture.
well, you see that I didn't pay attention in Leslie's class. So,
But Leslie taught you can use dry plant matter, but you can use, fresh plant matter as well. So you don't have to let that dry out. I mean, I don't know which one. I kind of feel like the fresh plant matter would be more potent. I don't
I
know.
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So I'm going to do that. I've started weeding out and cleaning up the food forest. The berries, strawberries are pretty well done. We're still getting a few here and there. And I don't have a count on how many gallons we got, but we got a tremendous amount of strawberries. And I've got like two little peaches. I'm like trying to take care of these peaches. I'm like, I hope nothing gets them because I've only got two peaches out of all the peach trees I've got. I'm like, this is nice. I'm ready for fruit on those trees. I hadn't got very much fruit yet from those, but I'm super excited for once when I get the fruit off there. Um, but that and in between work, that's about all I've done. Of course, the bulk majority of my time right now, if I've got quote free time, it's spent planning festival stuff.
Yeah, me too.
That's a big thing of planning it and getting it set and ready to go. So that's about all I've got that I've done on the homestead. Besides, other than rotating animals every day, moving them to different pastures, feeding animals, collecting eggs, all that kind of stuff. So, and this is hilarious. The other day, I'm sitting there and I heard the garage door come up, and I was sitting in the house doing something. I heard the garage door come up, and I heard my wife yelling. She's like, "Get out of here, chicken!" And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? So I come out there. There's a trash can out there that had where I'd emptied the brooder box. It had a bunch of stuff out of the brooder box. It's about halfway full. I'm gonna take it and put it and start composting it. But apparently, one of these black chickens that runs around was in there, and she's been laying eggs in there. And
She's laying eggs in it.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and I come out and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And my wife looks at me. She goes, that stupid chicken was like a jack in the box. She said, I walked by the trash can and it just jumped up out of there. Like, hey, what are you doing? She said it
Poor
scared the
Whitney.
crap out of me. So now that chicken is always hanging out and I just laugh every time I walk by. So, but
She's
what
gonna go broody and you're gonna hatch out chickens in your trash can.
I've got two chickens that are broody right now. I'm waiting on those to hatch, and it's excuse me, any day now. I should have some, but none yet. So, what have you what have you got for our news articles?
So I came across a couple articles. One of them, um, this isn't really it isn't really, I guess you'd say, a big deal or whatever, but it just kind of I feel like it's something that we need to do. So in Des Moines, Iowa, um, some people started making some complaints about people having chickens in like urban areas, and which I mean, Des Moines is the city's cap or the state's capital. Um, so from 2020 to June of 2024, they got 3 complaints about chickens, people having backyard chickens. So they decided that they were going to make a city ordinance saying that apparently before this they allowed people to have 30 birds. They were going to take it down to you were only allowed to have 12 and no roosters because roosters make a lot of noise. And so a group of citizens in Des Moines created this it was, for lack of a better word, a parade, and they just had this little parade where they paraded their chickens around and they had signs saying, that poultry is food and all of this kind of stuff. And it actually got the city council to reconsider. They haven't changed their mind, but they're willing to talk to them about it now. I think it kind of sucks that out of a whole city, 3 complaints made them do this ordinance. I mean, and I get it. If you live in a city, you don't want your neighbor's rooster waking you up all hours of the night or whatever. I mean, I live out in the country and it's not I have several roosters actually, and it's not nobody complains about that because we live on a farm and there's farmers all around us and I
Yeah,
hear other people's roosters and all of that. But I have to commend these people for like going out and just saying, "Hey, we live here too, and we want to have our chickens, and we don't feel like we should be regulated or whatever." There's a lot of places. I mean, a lot of cities all across the country that are trying to stop people from having backyard chickens and all of that. And it's just, I'm glad they're sticking up for themselves. I guess that's why this one caught my eye, because that's what it takes when you don't want to be, when it's an unjust law, and I feel like that is an unjust law, then, I don't feel like the government should step in and make you get rid of your livestock or whatever. I
Oh,
don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
well, no, I mean, and it said in the article that it had, what, 30 birds previously is what you
Yeah,
could.
well, the rule was that you could have 30 birds, and they were taking that down to 12. You were only allowed to have 12 and no roosters.
Yeah. And I mean, if realistically, if you look at that in a neighborhood, 30 birds is a lot of birds to have on a residential lot. I
It
mean,
is.
even an acre lot, that that's pretty good in my opinion. That now I'm against, people telling you what you can and can't do on your own land. But
Right.
and then even kicking it down to 12 birds is not too bad. But I mean, I applaud those people and
They're
stick.
just standing up for their rights, right?
Yeah, stand up for it. And it's just like, and that comes back. I saw a post on Facebook. Is one of the Kentucky groups, Kentucky Livestock or something. The lady asked, she was like, "I've got way too many chickens, and the city is,
I saw that.
yeah, the city's getting on to me. I need to get rid of some of these chickens." And I simply took a page from Billy's book, and I told her, I'm like, if they come in and say something, I said, tell them that your chickens identify as dogs or cats, and tell them to leave it alone. And I mean, it got more response than anything I put on Facebook in a long time. People were laughing about it and giving it a thumbs up and everything else. And I'm like, just do it and try it. So,
What can they say, right?
yeah, I mean, if kids can go crap in a litter box and meow and everything, I mean, we can identify our chickens as dogs.
Right. So the other news article that I came across, I don't know if you all saw this, but back on July 23rd, the Biscuit Basin in Yellowstone National Park erupted. And the funny thing is, like we've watched all of the movies, all of the in the world things and all that kind of stuff. And so I think the first time that I saw something on it, it was on TikTok, and it was a video of somebody that was there, and this thing, like they were running from it, right? And I remember I texted my husband and I said, something just erupted at Yellowstone. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't seem like that's a good thing, because if you've done any kind of, like, if you've looked into this or whatever, that Yellowstone, was it called a caldera or whatever, the volcano that's there,
Yeah.
it literally covers what, like almost half of the country. I mean, it's a massive. It might be a third of the country, I guess. That big, round part around Yellowstone, but it's a massive volcano, I guess. But this article that I found, they were talking about it, and so it says, and this was put out by the nationalparkservice.gov website. So it's from the people that are there. And it says on July 23rd, 2024, a hydrothermal explosion at Biscuit Basin resulted from water suddenly transitioning to steam in the shallow hydrothermal system beneath Black Diamond Pool, and was not caused by volcanic activity. Like, that's in the first sentence.
Yeah.
Was not caused by volcanic activity, because all these idiots out here like me, I'm sitting there going, oh my god, it's
Yeah.
erupting. And
Yellowstone
it's
blown.
right. It says seismicity, ground deformation, and gas and thermal emissions remain at their normal background levels. So everything else is at normal levels, I guess, and there is no detectable precursors to this event. Every time I see something like this, it always brings me back to what we do. And we're going to get into it with our topic today, talking about why we should do what we should do. But are you ready for something like this? Now, don't get me wrong. If you're if there's a volcano that's going to erupt, that's going to like hit Kentucky or something, there's probably not a lot of preps you can do for that. That's a big, that's kind of a catastrophic thing. But I don't know. It just what caught my attention was that the first sentence, it says it was not caused by volcanic activity. Okay. It just seems like, steam underground, and what causes the steam? It's the volcano and all that, but whatever.
That,
He's
that
whatever.
sounds like volcanic activity to
I
me.
know.
But
Right.
yeah, but what they've said for years, once Yellowstone's going to blow one of these days, and it's going
Yeah.
to affect. I mean, it's pretty much going to affect the whole country when it goes, depending on what it does.
I'm pretty sure it'll affect the whole planet.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some stuff on it years ago and everything, but then there was also something that they were talking about, the New Madrid fault,
Mhm.
which that's real
That's
close
close
up.
to us. Yeah.
That they keep talking something about the New Madrid fault. I think they bring stuff. I think they keep stuff in the background. It's like, oh, when something's going wrong and they don't want you to look over here, they're like, oh, let's
Right.
just drag up the New Madrid fault. Yeah, it looks like it might go off.
So
So
maybe we should go look and see what happened on July 23rd. Not that they could have caused the steam. Well, I don't know if they could have caused it or not, but I wonder what happened on that day that they were trying to distract from, right?
yeah, so I mean, and honestly, they probably do. They probably keep something in their back pocket, and just to be like, oh yeah, so and so's doing this, but hey, look, the New Madrid fault moved, 0.001 inches, so it might kick off any day now, and then people freak out about that.
Well, this says that those people that were there, um, it said that most of the rocks, so the debris went hundreds of feet in the air, and it destroyed the boardwalk because there's a boardwalk that walks out there to the, I guess it's a geyser, kind of like Old Faithful or something. And it said it ejected grapefruit sized rocks, tens to, or let's see, hundreds of feet from the source. And then some of the ones closer were about 3 feet wide, weighing about 100 pounds. It was largely directed to the northeast toward Firehole River, and the largest blocks fell in that direction. But there were people, I saw videos from it. They were running like crazy, and it was, I don't know, it was kind of scary looking. I wouldn't have wanted to be there.
I saw some videos on TikTok, and I'm like, first off, why in the world would somebody? Yeah, it'd be cool to watch that, or go watch some of those geysers. But I'm like, I don't want to be that stinking close, because you never.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's like walking up to the edge of a volcano. Who in the world wants to do that? Because you never know when that thing might blow, and there's nothing you can do about it except for get Kentucky
Yeah.
Fried.
It's kind of the same people that chase tornadoes. I don't get that either. But
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the news. That's what I got for you.
All right. Well, another one of our awesome sponsors and affiliates for this show is Signature Solar. You can go to signaturesolar.com to they have got pre-made kits for you, off-grid kits, grid-tied kits. They've got batteries, all your accessories for solar. Those guys will work with you on designing systems. We're working on doing a couple things here at my homestead right now, but use the code Homestead at signaturesolar.com and check with those guys and see what they can do for you. And moving in, main topic of the day. What we're going to kind of talk about. I mean, we're in uncertain times. We've been that way for quite a while. One of the biggest things is food storage. Your food storage best practices for that. I That's one of the big things in my book is food storage. I mean, it should be in everybody's mind. Uh, and I kind of start people off when people ask me stuff about food storage. One of the big things is why should I have food storage? And the reason I tell them, I'm like, if you didn't live through the past, 4 or 5 years of what we've lived through, uncertain times, there were times where you couldn't get certain things.
Right.
There's still stuff that you can't get, or it might be kind of leery. And then right now, in the time of inflation we're in, hey, that stuff is 2 to 3 times what it is, right? What it was, a couple years ago. People, of course, people won't say, or the government won't say, oh, we've only got 4% inflation, which I call BS on that, on the food stuff. But why you should have food storage? If you can't just run out and get something, if you've got a natural disaster, any kind of pandemic, any kind of big catastrophe go on, if you can't go out and get those, or if food gets so astronomically expensive for a while, you've got food stocked back that you can rely on to have. Shelly, why would you? What would be your reasoning on having a food storage?
Well, I mean, what about losing your job or, getting laid off or something like that? What if you have back at the beginning of the year for all of February and March and part of April, Randy was laid up from having knee surgery. Um, I mean, he had his short-term disability coming in, but it's just like a fraction of what he normally makes. So, during that time, we were digging into our freezers and pulling out stuff that, not going to the grocery store as much. And that's it. It doesn't have to be something catastrophic. Well, I mean, losing a job could be that's kind of serious, but there's a lot of jobs out there. You can probably go get another one, but it would be one less bill that you would have to worry about. And that's a big deal, feeding your family. There'd be one less thing that you'd have to worry about it if you had food stores put up.
Yeah, and the food, to have a food storage plan is not just the end of the world. It's not just because the world's going to end tomorrow. It's like you said, just unforeseen circumstances. People can lose jobs every day. You can get sick every day.
Right.
Just and then smaller stuff in the wintertime. If you have an ice storm and you can't get out, so if you can't get out for a couple days, I mean, you've got food sitting there ready to go. And then one of the other things I touched on too is just the inflation. If you can buy a lot of this stuff now, you're going to beat inflation, especially on your long-term storage stuff and your freeze-dried stuff. You can really, I could go back and look at how much I paid for some of these staples that I've got and be like, man, that stuff is twice as much as it is right now. And it's perfectly good because I stored it right.
Well, and not only that, sometimes you'll go to the grocery store and they'll have really good specials or deals on something. You might be able to get ground beef really cheap or chicken or, you know, the store that's close to us does a lot of like 10 for $10 kind of things.
Yeah.
So if you know how to put that stuff up, especially if it's fresh or meat or something like that, if you know how to preserve that, so you can buy stuff in bulk like that when you can get good deals on it, well then that's just a bonus because you're getting it at a good price.
Yeah, exactly. And scooting on along on this on the food storage stuff, I've kind of got three different types of food storage as far as what I look at for my personal stuff. Your mileage will vary on this. Shelly's is going to be a little bit different than mine, but as far as you've got short term, mid term, and long term is kind of the three categories that I've classified mine in. Your short term is like 0 to 1 year shelf life. So that's the stuff that you've got in your refrigerator, stuff that you've got sitting on your shelf, stuff that's going to have less than a 1 year shelf life, and that you really don't have to do any kind of special storage for it or anything like that. You don't have to worry about putting it in Mylar. It can stay in the packages that you bought it in. So that your short term is 0 to 1 year. Your midterm is kind of a year to maybe 3 to 4 years. That gets into your canned goods and stuff like that, whether it's commercial canned or whether it's home canned stuff, and then also stuff in your freezer. Pretty much, maybe after 5 years, I probably wouldn't eat a lot of the stuff that's frozen in the freezer. I've eaten stuff that's older than 5 years. It's been in the freezer. It gets a little freezer burn, but hey, you can still eat it. But your midterm is anywhere from a year to 3 to 5 years, something like that. Long term stuff, I'm going to go 5 years to 30 years shelf life, and that's really when you get into your rice, your beans, your whole grains, your pastas, and that's all stuff that's stored in Mylar bags or stored in number 10 cans with oxygen absorbers. So, Shelly, what's kind of your life that you put short term, midterm, long term?
I would say that I would agree with what you just said. I mean, that's kind of where I would put those things. Um, Mine and Randy's situation, we probably have if everything fell off tomorrow, what we have right now in our house, we probably have about 6 months worth of food. If we rationed it, we could probably get a few more months out of it. Uh, we rely heavily on growing stuff and gardening and the whole homesteading thing. And I know that that's, like if it did fall off tomorrow, we'd be woefully unprepared because everybody and their brother would be showing up at our house. So everybody thinks mom and dad's got all this food put up and I'm like, well, we kind of do, but it's not, we don't have food for everybody. But no, I would feed my kids and my grandbabies, but um we need to be better prepared as far as having longer term food storage. We don't, I mean, I have a lot of canned goods and stuff, and those do last longer than a year. We've probably, we've got a few freezers and they're pretty full, but we need to do better.
Yeah. And you've got a lot more of the short term and the midterm.
Mhm.
And I'm a lot heavier. More heavy on the midterm and the long term. I've still got a lot of short term. I mean, I could go up there pretty much whatever I wanted to eat right now. I've got it in the freezer or the pantry and could kind of whip whatever I wanted to up. But some of your, and we've kind of touched on it, some of your shorter term stuff is essentially what I'm talking about, like what you've got in your kitchen cabinets and in your pantry upstairs. You've got stuff that's in your refrigerator, stuff that you're cycling through every day is kind of what I'm talking about your short term stuff. Your midterm, you're maybe not using it every day. You're maybe using it once a week, once a month, something like that. And then your longer term, I've already touched on it. That's your rice, your beans, your grains, stuff, and your freeze dried foods. Stuff that you're not going to be touching unless you've already eaten through all your short term and your midterm supplies. So that's kind of the definitions that I use personally. Your mileage will vary on that. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. What I do for myself is not going to be the same thing that fits Shelly's plan. It's not going to be the same thing that fits everybody else's plan. This is just the way that I do it and the way that Shelly handles food storage. And really, as far as getting started on your food storage, the way that I've approached it is I looked at it and it's like, how many family members or people are you going to have that you're going to be storing food for? So you've got to even start, you have to come up with that number. So I came up with my number of people that I'm preparing for my food storage. So I looked at the family size. I looked at any dietary restrictions. Is somebody highly allergic to peanut butter, for say? If they're highly allergic to peanut butter, then you've got to make extra plans for that. Not everybody's going to be eating peanut butter as their daily ration. So dietary restrictions, storage space for it.
Mhm.
Some people might not have, a root cellar. They might not have a basement, but maybe you've got an extra bedroom that you can keep this stuff in. If you got that, put a bunch of shelves up in your extra bedroom and store that. Label it, inventory it, have a good inventory system. So storage space, and then also your budget. If you've only got $20 a week extra to put on here, to put for your food storage, you're probably best off to buy some staples as far as beans and rice, your whole grains. To buy that, you're going to get more mileage out of that than if you're going to go out and buy a Mountain House freeze dried food. So just look at your budget. Shelly, what kind of considerations have you taken and looked at as far as assessing yours?
One of the things, you can store stuff underneath beds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go and buy those flats of canned goods, just shove them underneath your bed. Um, you can put them up in the tops of closets. There's all kinds of little nooks and cranny places that you can stick food. But one of the things that you need to really be aware of is rodents. I mean, you get mice, if you've got like a bunch of boxes of pasta or something like that, and it'd probably be better if you stored it in a 5-gallon bucket with some, oxygen absorbers or something like that. But anything that a mouse can tear into, that's going to be that's not good. So you need to be aware of that. when you start when you start thinking about what do I need to do to, have however whatever time period you pick. I don't want to overwhelm people by saying, get a year's worth of food or whatever. Start with a month. If this is brand new to you, sit down and think, okay, what do I need for a month? My family likes to eat we like to have spaghetti. So if we have spaghetti once a week, then I'm going to buy, 4 1-pound boxes of spaghetti, 4 jars of spaghetti sauce, depending on how many people I've got. In my house there's just 3. And then however much ground beef I need for that. And I may even, if I can find a special on ground beef, I could can that ground beef, and then it's going to sit on a shelf, and I'm not going to have to worry about taking up freezer space with it. And then I can just dump that in and make spaghetti. So for a month, for one meal each week, for a month, I've got spaghetti. And then I'm going to figure out what's another meal my family likes. Because Jason always talks about rice and beans, and I think that's like a prepper thing. Preppers are always talking about rice and beans. I don't like rice and beans. there's
I,
a
I don't.
Japanese there's a Japanese place. It's over close to where Jason lives, and there's also one, not far from where I live, and that's like the only place that makes rice that I like to eat, and I can't make rice that tastes like that. So I am not prepping rice and beans. I mean, I like pinto beans and that kind of thing, but think about what your family likes to eat and save that. And then once you can even sit down very easily and just list off 30 meals that your family likes and duplicate that for each month. And you may go to the grocery store, and one of those things that are on that list for those 30 meals, they might have that on special, and you can get enough for the whole year, depending on what it is. But that's the way to start with your pantry management, is to just lay it out for a month and then duplicate that 12 times. And guess what? You've got a year's worth of food. It's don't think, oh, well, that's just too big. That's too much. I'm not going to be able to afford it or whatever. Just do a month at a time, or maybe do a couple weeks at a time. Start off small. And then, once you start getting in that mindset of, when I go to the grocery store, this is what I'm looking for. Or if you're growing it, on your property, you can, do it that way. But start small, and that way you don't become overwhelmed, and especially monetarily overwhelmed. And you can just get in the mindset of how to prepare for that.
Yeah, and I've looked at it too, the big picture and then the small picture. If you tell somebody, hey, uh, you need a year supply of green beans, or they're wanting to build a year food supply at once. I mean, you take, let's just say that you're going to do, and I threw an example out to somebody one time. I'm like, say you want to eat green beans for dinner every night, and you're going to have 2 cans of green beans for your family. Right there, that's 300
cans.
Yeah, it's close to 800 cans. So
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're going to do that, you need 800 cans of green beans. And they look at you cross-eyed. It's like, holy crap, how do I do that? And I'm like, you build it up 2 cans at a time if you want to. I mean,
Yeah.
but if you take that for a month or even a week, I mean, that's only 14 cans for a week. I mean, that's a little bit more than a flat. So throw an extra flat in, and you do that enough, you can store up quite a bit of food that way. And excuse me, I'm the same way. Don't just go out. Too many people are going to go out and they're just going to grab, they're going to grab freeze dried buckets of stuff, never check what's in there, and look at that and they're like, hey, I've got a 30-day food supply. And if there's 4 people in their house, they're like, I'm going to buy 4 of these buckets and I got a 30-day food supply for 4 people, and never look at it. You don't know if you like that stuff or not.
Well, and not only that, it might list on there like calories per day kind of thing that you get. But from what I'm hearing, and I've never bought one of these buckets, so I don't know. But from what I hear and what I've read, a lot of those companies put a lot of drink mixes in there. And yes, you can get calories from drink mixes, but that's not like eating food.
Yeah.
That's, you want food to eat.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they kind of seem a little deceptive to me. I hope that I'm sure there's companies out there that don't do that, but check on it before you start stocking up on food buckets.
Yeah. Shelly, kind of run us through some of the short term and the midterm, because you're more heavy with the short term and the midterm, and I've got a deeper stock as far as long term stuff. So you could probably talk more about the midterm and the short term stuff, kind of how you're doing it at your place and what works for you.
So, well, I mean, we have our freezers, and you do run the risk when you have freezers, you run the risk of electricity going down. I know when in the wintertime, which that's just something that we deal with, in rural Kentucky or whatever. If you have ice storms or snowstorms or something, sometimes your electricity goes out. Um, if you don't, as long as you don't open your freezer for a while, you leave them closed, they'll stay, pretty cold for a while. I don't know how long, but we've never had things to start thawing out when our electricity has gone out. But we do freeze a lot of meat, we freeze a lot of vegetables, and we freeze a lot of fruit. Um, we also can a lot. Pulling stuff out of the garden. This year, my garden has been woefully miserable and full of weeds. So anything that I've canned this year has like come from the farmer's market. I am getting ready to dig up potatoes. So hopefully by the next time we do one of these podcasts, I'll have that to report. But and you can can potatoes. It's the whole canning thing that is to me that I know that there's freeze dryers out there and all that kind of stuff. We don't have a freeze dryer. Canning is probably my ultimate solution right now, just because that's what I have. Um, but we have a lot of canned goods and a lot of store bought canned goods. We have those as well in the pantry and all of that. So that's pretty much where we're at.
And I've got and touching on the canning and the freeze drying, the canning to me, I've got a freeze dryer. I use it quite a bit. It's awesome. But in a grid down situation, I'm not going to run a generator for 24 to 32 hours to run a freeze dryer. It's just not practical. But as far as a canner, if you got the right canner, you can can over, you can use your gas grill,
Oh yeah.
or you can use I mean, you can do it over a fire if you want to.
You
So
can use a turkey fryer if you I mean, you got to have propane tanks or whatever, but you can totally build a fire, and if you've got a grate or something to set it on, you can can that way.
yeah. So I mean
Yeah.
that's the ultimate in the grid down, is having your canner that you can use over an open flame. So, but as far as I'll touch more on the long term stuff, like I've said before, the long term stuff you're going to be storing it in Mylar bags, or buying pre sealed number 10 cans with oxygen absorbers. Uh, and the main things are your big staples: your rice, your beans, your grains, dehydrated food, freeze dried food. The long term stuff is stuff that you want to touch after you've eaten up your short term and your midterm things. You really don't want to crack into your long term stuff, right off the bat. Uh, and you can have a big variety of stuff in your long term. We store most everything in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and then put them in 5 gallon buckets or 55 gallon drums. It depends on the scale that you're going on. I personally like a 2.5 gallon Mylar bag, because then I'm not opening up 5 gallons of beans at once. I'm only opening up like a 2.5 gallon. And most of the time, I'll put ours in totes, or I'll put those in 55 gallon drums. They're a pain in the butt to move around in a 55 gallon drum when it's full, but I don't move these. We've got dedicated storage, and most of the time with your long term, you've got a dedicated storage area to where you're not moving these every day.
Mhm.
Just like you go to try to find the croutons or something in the pantry. Like I wanted a salad the other day. I searched for 20 minutes in the pantry and moved everything in the pantry to find these stinking croutons. I mean, so you're not really doing that. My long-term storage food, I seal it up. I let it brick up hard, and then I put it where it's going to go. And typically, it does not move unless I move the bucket or the 55-gallon drum. I'm not moving individual bags all the time. But as far as your long-term food storage, you want to keep it as cool as possible. If you can keep it about 60-degree storage temperature, it's going to extend the shelf life a lot farther than if you're going to keep it at 95 or something like that. Heat kills the shelf life on any kind of stored food, whether it be long-term, mid-term, or short-term. And a cool, dark, dry place is the best thing. I tell you, a basement is amazing to have for your food storage because you can put stuff down there. It stays nice and cool. You can turn the lights off and it's dark, and you don't have to worry about anything except for if you get a mouse down there and set some mouse traps, and you're pretty well good to go that way. So, but that's kind of what I've got as far as food storage. We've just really honestly scratched the surface on it. We could do multiple podcasts and get really deep in the weeds. If somebody wants really deep in the weeds podcast on food storage, let us know. Leave a comment. Send us an email. Shelly, what's the email?
questions@KentuckySustainableLiving.com.
Yeah, send us an email. Give us a comment on one of our channels if you want to know more about food storage. Like I said, we could go deep into the weeds in a whole series of podcasts with that. But
I wanted to say too, another thing that I use, and this isn't, I wouldn't really consider this long-term food storage, but Randy and I we buy flour and sugar in bulk. So I buy a 25-pound bag of raw cane sugar at a time, and usually 2 of those bags will last us a year. But I store those in a 5-gallon bucket, and they make these special lids that you can buy for those. And I cannot think of what the name of them are, but I get them from Azure Standard.
They're Gamma Seal.
Yes, Gamma lids. And so the lid, there's a portion of it that seals down over the 5-gallon bucket, and then it's got a screw top that will unscrew. It's got a gasket in it and everything, so it seals it all up. I don't have to worry about my sugar getting wet or my flour getting wet, and I don't have to worry about mice or anything getting into it. So those and we use those all the time now. It is kind of long term or not long term, but short term, because it lasts us as long as it does. But those are good to have too, to keep pests out and all that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, the Gamma Seal lids are pretty stinking nice. They're expensive, but they're nice if you're always opening buckets and stuff like that. So, because
they'll last forever. I mean, they're good, strong, sturdy lids.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you honestly, one of the best things, because in my business I'm opening 5-gallon buckets all the time. They make a bucket opener that it looks like a little plastic wrench, and you can open the 5-gallon buckets with it. And it has saved me ripping my fingernails off so many times. And they're like $3 or something at Lowe's.
Are they like those things that you use to open paint cans? Is that what you're talking about?
No, these are. It looks like a plastic wrench. It's got a handle on it, and it looks like a C. And you take it, and you can just pop the 5-gallon buckets open with that.
Did not know they had that.
Instead of ripping your fingernails off. I've ripped so many fingernails off opening 5-gallon buckets. So, but I don't think we've got any Q&A on this week, do we?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, we'll just skip Q&A. Homestead tip of the day.
So our Homestead tip of the day, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap. Go get you some sexy beast at 20crowshomestead.com. Find a way to put your food and your water close to your animals. Make, if you have, we talked about this a little bit in another episode where we talked about, having stuff in zone 1 and all of that. But, like when I go out and feed my rabbits and my chickens, the chicken feed and the rabbit feed is right there where they're at. When I go feed my pigs, the pig feed is right there where they're at. It's I try to make that as easy as I can for myself because I'm usually feeding in the morning and Randy feeds in the afternoon. So I've got to get out there, get it done, get back in, get ready for work. So we even have right now we have a mama chick that hatched out some babies and we put her in our old rabbit tractor because the last mama that I had, she hatched out two babies and they just disappeared. So I didn't want anything to happen to these, so we put them in the rabbit tractor. And I even have a small can out there that has chick feed next to that where they're at, just to make it whatever makes your life easier so you can get your stuff done quickly and make your day more efficient. I'm all for it. So find a way to put all of your inputs where they need to be instead of you have to lug buckets back and forth or whatever.
Oh yeah, and that's the only downside of when I've got my animals across the driveway in one of the
Mhm.
pastures is I've got about 225 feet of garden hose that I string out to fill the water troughs up. But luckily, I only have to fill that water trough up every other day. It'll take them 2 days to drink that trough down, so fill it up. But then the bad thing is when I want to mow the yard, I've got
Mhm.
to pull all that garden hose and move it, and I'm like, this just sucks. But you've got free. I've got 4 acres that I'm grazing for free, so I'm not going to fuss. I'll roll up garden hose once a week to mow to get 4 acres for free. So, but that's the tip of the
Trade
day.
offs.
Yeah, I'll take that trade off every day. I wish the guy'd sell it to me, but that's never going to happen. I don't
I
think.
don't know with the price of land out where you live. I don't know that I'd want to buy it.
It'd be nice to be able to afford it or him even actually offer it up, but who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the tip of the day. And guys, last festival stuff, we have been planning and killing ourselves getting this festival ready to go. And it's August right now. But I tell you what, we've got less than 3 months before the festival. And everybody, I was talking to some people, they're like, man, it's a long way away. I'm like, it's not really a long way away.
It's not.
So, but it's our festival. It's a Kentucky Sustainable Living, Homesteading, and Preparedness Festival. It's in Bowling Green, Kentucky. You can go to our website, KentuckySustainableLiving.com. All the details are there. If you miss some of the details, we're going to give you. Uh, Shelly, you may hit some of the speakers. We've got a couple new speakers that are coming.
Yeah, why don't you go over that?
We've got Byron Russell will be there. Byron's going to be talking about drone defense. We've got local prepper from Virginia. He's going to be coming down. He's going to be talking about most likely the preparedness. The topic he's going to talk about is preparedness 101 for us. Local prepper, check him out on YouTube. Super nice guy. He'll be down to spend the weekend talking to us. You can come meet him. And then also Chronically Healthy. They're going to come out of Powell, Tennessee. They talk about living a healthier lifestyle, getting off your pharmaceutical drugs and stuff like that. They're going to be a guest on a podcast pretty soon, but they're doing some amazing work. They will do, and if somebody says, "Oh man, they're in Powell, Tennessee," they're 5 hours away from me. One of their big things is they do a lot of this stuff by Zoom. So they can do Zoom meetings with you, consultations with Zoom, and all that. So even if you're 5 hours or 10 hours away, they're two really nice people. I spent about 2 hours talking to them the other day, and they're like, we want to be involved in your festival, and we will be there to speak. So
Awesome.
they'll be there to speak, and they'll also have a booth all weekend where you can sit down there and talk to them. Even after they speak, you can come by their booth and talk to them. And then people we've already talked about. Jason, Angry Prepper, is going to be there. William Bond will be there, the permaculture consultant. Bill Stoker from Stoker-Matic on YouTube, he will be there. Sean Terrio will be there talking about cybersecurity and ghost phones. Randall White with Flomaton Famous on YouTube, he will be there. He's going to be talking about tree grafting. Leslie Gossett will be there talking about herbs. Chuck Peoples will be there talking about a medical topic to be determined. Brian and Susan Dudley will be there talking about radio communications when the grid is down and even when it's not down, how you can use it. Jeff Smith, Everyday Prepper, will be there. Jeff has got only about 100,000 topics he can talk about, so I'm gonna
Right.
I'm gonna let Jeff choose
I
what.
love Jeff.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna pin him into a corner. I'm gonna let him talk about what he wants to, because every time I've heard him talk and every conversation I've had with Jeff, I've gotten some nuggets out of it.
He
So
is so stinking knowledgeable. I mean, he's every class or, session that he's done for us that I've listened to, I'm just like, this dude is just a wealth of information.
yeah. What else have we got, Shelly? What have I missed as far as the festival? We've still got
So
a spot.
so so on Friday, we're gonna have some workshops. We're gonna have Grumpy Acres is gonna do a canning workshop. Leslie Gossett, our herbal chick. She's going to do a 4-hour herbal class, and then Chuck Peoples is going to do a 4-hour suturing class, and wound care, suturing and wound care. And then Brian and Susan are going to do a radio class, and is that it?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
it.
that's it. Yeah. So those are workshops that are going to be offered on Friday before the festival. You can find more information out about that. I've actually um, got everything just about finalized so I can start putting all of that stuff. Joe can get that on the website for us. So that should be up sometime this week. And you can check that out and sign up for those classes. If you want to order your tickets in advance at the door, they're going to be $35. But if you want to order them in advance, use promo code email25 when you check out, and you can get them $10 off. You can get them for $25, and 17 and under get in free.
Yeah. And then Saturday night, don't forget, we have the charity dinner for Caleb House. That's going to be a prime rib dinner. If tickets are $150 for that, there's limited seats on this. We've got a
And
limited.
we've already been selling tickets. So if you want to go, you need to get your ticket.
Yeah, and there's a limited number of seats that are available for this. You'll get to have prime rib dinner with all our speakers and all our guests that are going to be there. It's going to be a nice time. We're probably going to have some auction items for there. You'll get some good stuff, but it's going to be a real nice dinner and a nice time for a great cause. So get your tickets for that. They will sell out, so don't wait too awful long for that. That's about all the festival stuff I've got. We're still working. There's a few more vendor spots left, so if somebody wants a vendor there, get with one of us and we can get you a vendor spot. And that's about all that I've got for today.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, guys, we appreciate you listening, and we will see you next week with another episode.
God bless y'all.